Right. Morning, Peter. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. First question, 40 years, KHR, where did it start?
Morning, Tom. Thank you for having me. So, KHR are my dad's initials,
Right.
Karl-Heinz Roese. And he actually moved to the UK back in '78, married to my mum. He's German, he was a German engineer, built chemical plants and designed factories and things like that. And he wasn't happy with his job and wanted to start something new on his own. He had some contacts from Germany, and he started out working with those companies. And originally, KHR was actually selling carpet and vinyl machines to distributors, so industrial paternosters, carpet cutting measuring machines, a bit like the ones that you still see in B&Q. He worked with companies like Schwab, Behr, Schneider, Janza was another company he used to work with as well, and that was kind of what his mainstay was. And then sort of in the early 80s, then he was contacted through the German Chamber of Commerce. A little German company was looking for a distributor importer to sell sanding machines. You know, it was kind of in his field. He said, yeah, let's give this a go, let's give it a try. And just fortunately for him, as the carpet and vinyl side changed with those heavy machines, as that went down, the sanding side really took off. And so it was a bit of a saving grace, really, for him, for us, for the family, and really just haven't really looked back. And we sort of then moved from that and then focused on the sanding and finishing side of things.
Okay. And then fast forward to now, I believe from the conversation we had, you've just moved premises. Where do you position KHR now in the market?
So we've undergone a lot of changes, and a lot of those changes were driven by the Lägler PST training system. So we had to change our business back in 2011 to accommodate that training, to bring it into the company, to change how we work, to make the training rooms, to make the training space, to be able to offer that service. Okay. And so with the success of that, we outgrew our old warehouse and then had to move the training to a separate building. And then for about 5 years, we were in 2 buildings. And then recently, we've now managed to bring it all back under one roof again, so we can provide a better service, bigger, better, you know, just keep doing what we're doing, but just striving for more. And obviously now, you know, we've got this big warehouse and it's sort of empty. All of a sudden, people come out the woodwork going, can you distribute this? Can you stock some of this? So again, we're adding in some new products into the product range. We've got new vacuum cleaners, which we've just taken on. We've formed a new relationship with a new German manufacturer that we're bringing in subfill prep machines and grinders and other tools from a company called Roll. So yeah, we just keep moving forward, but just keep the same values, keep the same ethos that we've always been working to, of just quality German products that we bring into the UK.
So as part of the Lägler agreement, so I'm 100% clear. So you've got to be able to stock them, service them, sell them. You've got to provide a training solution. Is that right?
Yeah. So as the company grew, initially when my father started out, we ran from home. You know, we had offices. We kept any shorthand stock in the garages at home, and anything big and heavy like the machines and everything else, we did external distribution from warehouses. And then we kind of got to the end of the 90s, and we were just too busy. The garages were rammed. You know, it was time to go to a proper warehouse. And so we moved just after the millennium. I kind of then moved full time into the company at that point. And again, so that was then us for that 20 years. And now we've just moved again. So we're now writing the next chapter. My sister and I, Katie is the other director. We're writing the chapter now for the next 20 years for us. So,
and what, in your opinion, has been the biggest challenge in that growth, if you had to do it again?
So we are a small family business. You know, it's only the last few years we've had extra salespeople in the office. So we are only technically 7/8. I say the /8 is our web guy, because Tim actually worked for us for a number of years, and he fantastically gets us and gets the products. And then he went out on his own and set up his own web company, but he still handles all the stuff for us. So we've got that continuation through it. So, you know, we're a small team, and as with any small team, as any small business, you're spinning lots of plates all the time, and you have to focus on different things and just keep the whole thing moving along. And you get those challenges basically. And so it's very similar to some of our customers, I suppose, really, because, you know, it's that 80-20 rule. You know, with floor laying and floor sanding, we always see those memes on TV, on the internet, where it's 20% in the gym but 80% nutrition. And it's exactly the same with floor fitting and floor sanding. Your 20% is on site doing the fitting or the sanding. Okay, the other 80% is all your business, your acumen, your paperwork, your admin, your marketing, organizing jobs, building relationships with suppliers, all that stuff in the background. I always had great admiration for our customers, because they have to have such a varied skill set to do what we do and do it well, basically. So.
Yeah, that's why we set up a training company for the other bit, the business side. Yeah, so it's we saw that, we knew it, we felt it. So at work or at KHR, what is your favorite thing to do? Do you get involved in the training? Are you selling? What's your go-to thing if you could really choose? I know you probably do everything.
So, as a small team, we all sell. If David in the workshop repairs a machine, obviously he sees issues or faults or brings things to the customer's attention. That's off the back of that comes sales. And so all throughout the company, everybody's kind of involved in sales in a little way. But my true passion in the company is training, teaching, educating customers. And I've been doing that for just over 20 years in the industry now. So I first started out, my first training courses were with Sid Bourne. Obviously Sid's son obviously now does floor skills. I started doing training courses there in Tipton. I think the company at the time was called Floorboards. Then after Floorboards, I did, I think, over a decade of training at Fitter in Loughborough. I was again involved in the wood installation courses and the fitting courses. The format of the training courses changed over the years. So sometimes I would come up and help the wood install guy, and then we'd do like 2 or 3 days, and then the next day it would go into the sanding and sealing, and then separately there were then separate sanding and sealing courses. And then in just after the credit crunch, so 2008, 2010, we had meetings with Lägler in Germany, and they sold us this concept of PST. We didn't know what it was. It's called premium sanding technology. And they sold us on the concept pretty quickly. We could see the advantages of what it would bring to the business and how it would work. But it was just then the implementation of it. And the whole concept of it is the brainchild of Carl Lägler, so the son of the founder of the company. And the whole idea is really just to bring about better surfaces in the shortest possible time. They produce wonderful, fantastic machines, and they offer great materials and abrasives and other bits and pieces. But the PST system helps to bring about the knowledge to combine it all together. So the customers are getting to those same results often quicker and faster and easier and more economically. And that's what we try to bring out. Often we get customers come in who I've got a huge amount of respect for their work. I see their pictures on Instagram and I'm absolutely amazed by the work that they produce. But then they say, after this step, I'll Rotex the whole floor on my hands and knees doing this, and I'll do this. And you're just thinking, why? That's an unnecessary step. And so the whole PST thing, as with any training course, it provokes you to think about what you're doing, stop, evaluate, are there efficiencies that you can be making? And just help the customer sort of bring things forward, just get to that same result quicker and more efficiently. And most customers, everyone takes something away from training, whether it be the maintenance, whether about it's reaffirming what you're doing is right or the most current method or technique, and even when we get guys that have come in, that have been in the trade for 15, 20 years, usually at the end of the training course, I get a handshake or a thank you. I didn't know this, or I didn't realize I could do that. And for us, that's the real affirmation. That's the real validation that what we're doing is right. Or certainly sometimes even those customers then send other team members or other members of staff down to then come and do the training as well. So it's been a really positive effect in our company to bring about obviously the service and the value that we provide to customers.
How long's the course, and how much is it, or what if you had to sell me the course? Because as we had the quick chat before the podcast, I admitted I'd never spent any money with KHR. I think we slipped the net, is what you said. So, which is unfortunate, but they're straight and honest on the podcast. But if you were, how much is it? How many days is it? Or is there certain stages of like gold, silver, and bronze? How does it look to?
So the training, we realise as an issue, is very expensive for companies to invest in. To take a day out, to take your guys off a job, then pay them to go down on a training course, which you then have to pay for, and then maybe pay for accommodation as well. Training is expensive. But the thing is, at the end of the day, you're paying for valuable knowledge. You have to invest in your business. So from the value aspect, we charge £300 plus VAT per company, up to 5 people. And so that's very different from a lot of other training courses where they're charging per person per unit. So the reason we wanted to open the doors like that is sometimes when we get companies come through the door, you might have someone that's more senior and someone less experienced in the sanding team or the crew or the fitting team. So we want to have everybody around the table. We want to create debate. We want to get everybody there. We want to make everybody inclusive. Sometimes that's bigger sanding teams. Sometimes we've had husband and wife teams come along. The husband does all the work. He's on the tools all the time. His wife does all the business and admin and is on the phone. But we've even had customers, where their wives are, they're behind on a job and it needs finishing, and the wife comes out and runs up and down the floor with the trio and helps them pull the job back forward again. So it just allows everybody in that company to come and take part and see the fundamentals. And when they come through the door, nobody gets away without being involved. Nobody is an observer in my training courses. Everybody gets hands-on, everybody gets involved. And so because of that, we've kept the numbers small to just 5 people.
Okay.
And it's only ever one company. When I did the training courses at some of the other organizations in the past, there's always a dominant character in the group. There's always someone that's done it bigger and better. There's always somebody that's done, more. There's always somebody, and you find that some people then shrink back or then don't ask questions. Yeah. So by tailoring it to just one company, I'm the stranger. I have to befriend the group in front of me. They all know each other. Yeah. And so that's a great dynamic in that room. Whereby I get to know them throughout the course of the day. We get to understand our customers better. They get to ask me any questions, and we often go off on massive tangents about fitting and the humidity. It's nothing to do with sanding, but they then very quickly realise that I'm a fountain of knowledge in front of them, and they're like, "Oh, I've just had this recently, and I've just had that." So sometimes I have to sort of speed things along and say, "Look, I'll come back to this, or we're going to get to that, or whatever." But it's really positive experience for our company overall, and I think it's something that we continue to do. In the early days when we first started doing the PSTs, we really struggled to fill the courses in terms of the first year I think we did 10, the second year we did 20, and now we're anything up to 80 courses a year. And that's only one company at a time. But the great thing about it also is I've got a bit of leeway within the course. So we have a basic structure to it where we want to achieve certain things by the end of the day. But obviously, if I have a customer that comes in and we're seeing huge repair bills and his lads aren't maintaining and looking after the machines, I'm going to be drilling home the maintenance issues with that. If we have a customer that comes in and has scratches with staining and finishing and things like that, we'll be focusing on the disciplines of why he's getting to that. Maybe he's not vacuuming enough. Maybe he's not, again, maybe it's a maintenance issue in machines and he's not sealing them up properly or doing whatever. So it gives me some scope to understand the customers, and I can still tweak the course depending on the client. So that's a really useful tool for us. And so for me, I'd say as much as I love doing the new starts, they're a blank canvas.
Yeah.
The real enjoyment is obviously working with the really experienced guys, because it's you sometimes get to a day where you start off the day and sometimes it can be a bit frosty, or they're asking certain awkward questions.
Yeah.
And then like common concepts that we try and explain to them is like the trio after a bit 60 is a faster and more efficient machine than the Hummel. Yeah, okay. Or you can remove Hummel 60 grit scratches with a trio on a 60. And you get a flat out, no, that's not possible. It can't be done. Well, we're going to show you, and we're going to show you how much time it's going to take. And we actually physically break it down and present the arguments. And you just get that moment where you see the penny drop, and they think, oh, I could have been doing this quicker. Oh, I could have saved myself money. Oh, why have I been doing it that way? Or I'm explaining about finishes, and the guy in front of me, I think I had a PST end of last year, and the guy almost literally started crying in the room because every floor he finishes up to 120 grit, but the most favorite finish that he uses is a Bonner matte lacquer, which, you know, it was all that unnecessary sanding and finishing, and he didn't realize that actually you could stop a lot earlier. And if you understand the finishes, you don't need to sand as fine as that. And that's half the game, is understanding the scratches that were in the floor. There's no such thing as scratch-free sandpaper. There's no such thing as scratch-free sanding machines. We're just understanding the finishes and just trying to hide them from the naked eye.
Yeah, I find that super, super interesting in comparison to our training courses, which are nothing to do with sanding. But where we set the room up affects the atmosphere. And if you get people talking out, we get husband and wife teams. Sometimes we even split them up in the room to increase, you know, so they get their own take on it. And also, I think it comes back to the thing with training, where you do have a minority of people that think, well, I can sand a floor, so why would I go to KHR to learn more? You know, well, I know everything. I'm earning X amount a week, and they're a bit sort of, the ego maybe plays a bit more, but all of those things, like, it's the golden nuggets that we found are the biggest things, where people will sit there for 2 days on our courses, or 1 day, or whatever it is, and they'll take 3 super key things away, which is exactly as you said, that just changes the business completely. Like,
and
the game changes.
Sometimes some of those experts that come in, I feel like when they come in for the training course, they aren't there to learn about the training course. They're coming to check me out. They're making sure what I'm teaching is valid or is good. And then the weird thing is, they then go away and, you know, maybe 6 months later, they've booked on again, and they're sending down 3 fitters, because they know then what the course content is about and what we're trying to convey and the message that we're bringing. They've then validated it themselves. That it's then valuable information. And I think that is something that we've seen with obviously some of the previous guests that you've had on the show, like Ben at Black Duck, for example. He's had a couple of his apprentices come down. It just, in one day, we can accelerate the learning knowledge of an apprentice, so that you can say, strip that down, take that upstairs, you know, jump on the trio, use the machine properly, you know, empty the bags out. And it's, you know, and as a business operator, you've got so much other stuff to do, as I've said earlier on, and training, you try and do the best that you can, but you kind of gloss over bits and you miss bits. And with floor sanding as a finishing trade, you know, it's the small details that matter. Okay, we're not laying carpets, we're not laying LVT, we're not, you know, laying pre-finished flooring here. We're creating the finish on site. So, and it's those small details that we have to get right. We have to do the vacuuming. We have to make sure the machine's set up, or it could be creating a vibration or a fault in the floor, or lines or scratches. And so it's the devil is in the detail. Yeah.
So if you built your dream house, what floor, and more importantly, what finish would it have on it?
So I'm going to make a confession. I'm going to make a confession now. I've got laminate floors in my house. I moved during the pandemic with a 2-week-old baby, and we've just had 6 months ago, we've just had another little girl. So we haven't had a chance to touch the house. And do you know what? I think I'm going to leave the floors for a while, because the kids are beating on that laminate every day. I'm not even going to paint the walls. I've been wiping chocolate and milkshake off the walls and all sorts of things recently. But in my own house, I love wooden floors. I'd probably have a raw look herringbone, something like that, in the living spaces, and something different in the kitchen. Sort of use the flooring to divide the zones in my house, as it were, and have something that when the time's ready, and the kids will respect it. Because at the moment, if I had anything like that in the house, I would cry when they trash it.
Yeah, at least you would have the right sanding equipment to put it right. And do the maintenance.
Well, that's the problem as well, having that over the years. Obviously, I did a bit of contracting when I was younger, and obviously since I met my wife and she understood what I did, the amount of times that she's gone, "Oh, Pete can sand the floors for you, or Pete can do this, or Pete can do that." And so she's like, she didn't understand like the amount of work and effort that's involved in sanding the floor, and the time and everything else. So she kept trying to sort of farm me out to friends and family. But yeah, nowadays I literally am just friends and family, and when I'm working out with customers on site.
Yeah, class. And as a whole, as the floor, not just the floor sanding industry, what do you think is the biggest challenge that faces us all at the moment and going into next year?
Well, I think obviously the most common answer has been answered on a lot of the other podcasts, and that is obviously the changes in the economic situation with the raw materials and price list changes. We've had with some of our suppliers, they've been changing prices like 3 or 4 times. So we have to make sure that we're current at what we're selling is the right price, and our customers have to know what the bottom line is all the time as well. So that's one obvious thing as well. But in all the years that I've been working, and not just when I've been active in the business, because I remember the family business at home, being around my dad, the conversations he would have with contractors and things like that. So we've been through so many recessions and credit crunches and other conflicts and wars and gulfs and this, that, and everything else. Every few years there's always something. Okay. Yeah. And if anything, a flooring contractor has to just remain versatile, keep educating themselves, keep adding services, and most importantly, knowing their value. Okay. And that's something which I hear all the time. Customers are going, how much do I charge a square meter? And it's like, I can give you some rough ideas across the country, but really you might have an idea in your area how much it is. But at the end of the day, you need to know what it costs you to go to work every day. You need to do those sums. You need to know what the things, and you need to know what you need to earn, because there's no point you competing with some guy that's at the end of his career, that's got all his machines and got everything paid off, and there's no finance and everything else. And there's no point you going to a price war with that guy, because you're going to lose. And you've got to know, what your value is and what you need. And some people, they just really, they don't know how to upsell that and their service. I think that's something as a small business that we've learned as a KHR is to find those values. I think in the early days, I was actually a little bit ashamed of being a family business. Okay. I would look to the bigger companies in the industry and I was like, we need to be more corporate. We need to have this and we need to have that. And actually I came to value what we do and realize our strengths and weaknesses, and realize that people buy from people. They don't buy from companies, and we build those strong relationships with those strong core of customers. I'm repairing and servicing machines from customers which my dad sold the machines to their dads. So wow. We're into second and third generation customers. We've got machines in the field which have been out there for up to 30 years on the Hummels. Yeah. And some of those machines are still out working every day, and we rebuild them and service them. And so that's a great thing about working with machinery, is it's predictable. It works or it doesn't work. It's worn out or it's not worn out. You can either just put it right. It can only be right one way, and it makes it quite easy to work with machines.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Hummels that we ran when we had the sanding business, I think were 5 or 6 year old, and then we'd had them serviced, and they were just, I think we used them for a couple of years and then sold the business, and they were still running as well as it. And I'd seen machines 20 years, and it was like, it's one of the best investments you can buy, because you can make some really good money from one investment, and it just keeps running. It's like a car wouldn't do that. A taxi wouldn't.
People nickname them all sorts of things like money printers and things like that. I like that. And the funny thing with a Hummel, even when it's broken and it's not sanding properly, it still works. I get customers dragging machines in. So I've just finished 400 meters, and I'm like looking at this thing going, how have you done that? And they show me the photos and they've got the finish, and testament to what they've done afterwards or how they've made it work. But I think that's the beauty of the Lägler design and their ethos and how they work. They make the machines in such a way, they don't redesign them and then make a design obsolete. Everything's backwards compatible. So the Hummel now is just about to get a new chassis.
Right.
So the problem at the factory was obviously the castings or the molds for the chassis have been in circulation for 20 years, and so they've been patched up and repaired, and they finally had to replace them. So now the new chassis is coming out. It's got some design features which they've added into it and modified it and changed it for the next generation. And often people look at Hummels and they think, it's the same machine, it hasn't changed. But if you're a bit of a sanding geek like me, you look at the machines, I'm like, well, those handles on that machine came in 1995, or that was changed in 2000, or this was added on afterwards, or this is supposed. So really, sort of every 10 years or decade, what Lägler's been doing is modifying and evolving the machine as it's been going on. And as I say, the Hummel's been around actually since 1969. A lot of people don't realise that. We weren't really actively pushing it until the early 80s. And I remember when I literally got my driving license, my dad was like, right, well, you're not going to college. Like, I struggled with college, and he was like, right, well, you're going to work for me, and so you're going to go do this. And so he would pack me off in the car, and I'd go do a demo. And I was a spotty-faced teenager, turn up on site, have to do a demo, and there's this gruff old floor sander there who's smoking rollies, and I'm totally out of my depth. But the one thing I knew was how to use the machines. Growing up around them, I already knew the spare parts and servicing and repairs, and I'd been out working with customers locally, when I was younger, and I would do the demo. And often by the time I get back to the office or back home, the purchase order was on the fax machine back then, and that's how I sold a lot of machines back then.
Yeah. I remember when I can't remember if it was Lägler or Bonner, but I remember when everyone started adding lights to the front of the. It was like just a game changer. It was like, who's thought to put a torch on the?
Yeah, so we were actually a bit late to adding lights to our machines. In the early days, a lot of people added like halogen lights, like the GU10 ones that you get in your ceiling.
Yeah.
And forever I see people changing those out with the vibration of the machines. They would break and they would get hot, or it was just like this dim light in front of the machine. And so Lägler found a supplier for these fantastic LED lights. You can run these lights for 8-10 hours a day. They're still cool. They don't superheat. I wish we had them 15-20 years ago, because when you're sanding across the floor and you've done a 40 grit cut one direction, and then you're cutting back the other way, you can just see every scratch, every line, every blemish, and it means that you just don't miss anything. And so they're fantastic, fantastic tool. Once you've had one, you'll never go back.
I know. We had all sorts of. I think when our edges went, we had head torches on. We had torches attached to side of festoons, and every combination you could think of to try and search the last scratch.
Yeah, for staining, and that's the thing. Seeing the scratches is reading what you've done to the floor is really, really, really important. And so light is so valuable on the job site, and often that's the one thing that you haven't got is good lighting.
Yeah. So you've invested in a new building recently. So what is going to be next for KHR?
So it's really streamlining everything that we've done now. We've moved after 20 years in a previous building, so we've just kind of got to the end of the chaos of that. And as I say, we're just focusing on the new product lines that we're bringing in, and getting excited about that, and putting things forward, and just settling into the new place. Really, that's the next thing now for the next sort of 24 months, and keep growing and keep pushing the services.
How long have you been in there now?
We moved in August.
Cool.
So 3-4 months.
I think probably the other question I haven't asked is, if you could turn the clocks back, is there anything you would have done differently to what you've done now, or the biggest mistake that you definitely wouldn't repeat if you could?
So is this personally me or the company?
No,
or
as KHR?
As KHR.
If you had to say KHR again, 20 years, reverse the clocks 20 years, and thought, I definitely wouldn't do that again, what would it be?
So I think it's probably the thing that I said earlier on about our identity as a family business. Right. I used to shy away from that, and realizing our strengths and weaknesses, and being proud of that. And I think that's probably one mistake in that respect. On the tools, I've got a couple of stories which I've had some regrets. I've done some silly things in that respect, and obviously, doing training over the years, I've heard some horrendous stories of what guys have done, because you always have a coffee break in the morning, and it's, oh, we did this and we burnt a house down, or we did this and this caught fire, and so we've heard some pretty horrendous stories. But for me personally,
on fire.
Sorry?
I've set a couple of skips on fire in my younger days.
There are some rules which you need to follow, but things happen, and you get complacent, and accidents can happen. It can happen to the best of us. I personally, so two things that I've done on site. I was working for a client up near Winchester in a really nice bungalow refurb. And the lady was working there, and she was a bit distracting, kept chatting. She was probably a little bit flirtatious as well. But we were just trying to crack on. And at lunchtime, she made some sandwiches and Kit Kats and bits and pieces, and said, come and sit in the conservatory and have some lunch.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, fine. It's better than the lunch that I've got. So, I'm gonna sit down and have a cup of tea. So carry on, nail the floorboards down. I had to do some repairs, some joists in the hallway, and carry on, get the floor sanded up. And I think we got the primer coat on that evening. And later on, I got a phone call, and really posh voice, "Darling, you've nailed my pussy under the floorboards." So I sat there, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I was like, fortunately, there were some floorboards in the next room, and she was able to coax the little devil out, completely shook up, covered in sawdust. And so, yeah, that was one. And then I did a house down in Lymington, yeah, for a former director of Southampton Football Club. And this house was beautiful. It was a 4-bedroom house, but the proportions of it were huge. You know, every bedroom had a separate walk-in wardrobe and dining area and ensuite. The kitchen was absolutely huge. The main living area, the main living room, would just swallow a grand piano. It looked like a footstool in there. It was huge. The windows were massive, chandeliers, and yeah. I was putting down a hard wax soil, and back then the hard wax soil was a bit more heady, a bit stronger than what the hard wax soils are nowadays. Yeah. And there was a bit of confusion between me and the house manager about who would be closing the windows that evening. And bear in mind, this house is out in the middle of the countryside. So, and as I worked out, I couldn't switch the lights off. So windows were open, it was ventilated. So I came back the next morning, and every bug, fly, gnat, mosquito, every thing that you could think of that flies in the night had beaconed into these chandeliers inside this country house in the middle of nowhere. Right. And they were on the ceilings, they were on the walls. They had died. They'd basically, inhaled all the vapors, and they were just basically dead bugs attached to everything in this room. They'd just been decorated. The flies that were flying around under the bugs that were flying around underneath the chandeliers were basically just gassed and had died. So there was like a pile of dead bugs in the hard wax oil, dried into the hard wax oil. So then started a 6-hour cleanup operation where I had to tape up all my vacuum cleaner heads. I had to vacuum gently the ceilings and the walls, not to smear all these dead bugs into the floor, screen the whole floor back, get the whole floor back clean again. And so that was, yeah, so those are sort of the two biggest personal screw ups on site that I've done.
Brilliant. I love it. Right, we're going to go into the quick fire round, which is always just a bit of fun and just more about you than KHR. So if you won 10 million tonight on the lottery, what are the first 5 things you'd buy?
First 5 things? Wow. Okay. So I had this conversation with my wife the other day. You know, you always have the what if questions. So
you have the ticket on the microwave ready to
No, yeah, that's the funny thing. We always talk about what if we won the lottery, but we never actually play it.
No.
But I think the first plan that we had for the lottery would be, if we won 10 million, would be to invest 2/3, spend 1/3, and the spending the 1/3 would be on us, on the family, on the kids, or whatever. My wife is actually was a professional sailor, okay. So and obviously where we are down in the South Coast, I think we'd probably be buying a nice sailing boat of some sort, something 45 foot, something that we could sail across the oceans and move around the world. I mean, that sum of money is life changing, and yeah. Everyone says it's never going to change you, but it would do. I mean, I've done nothing but work in KHR all my life, so I can't see me walking away from it. No. But I certainly would. It would afford me some time, maybe a couple of months a year. I'd then move the boat from one place to the next place, and just enjoy it with friends and family, make memories, see beautiful places and things like that. And yeah, obviously maybe a nice car or something like that, but nothing too extravagant after that. I think the bit that we invest would be then the security for us and the family, in the future, in investments and stuff like that. So.
Brilliant. Well, funny you say that, because the next question is, what car would you buy and why?
So I was a petrol head when I was younger, massively into Volkswagens and Audis. I had Mark 1 Golfs, Mark 2 Golfs, Golf VR6s, 4Motions, Audi RSs. So that, and I've spent too much money on cars over my life. So I've got a van now. I love my van to pieces. I probably want a newer van, if that's my humble approach. But if I'm playing the game and money's no object, it'd probably be something like a classic Ferrari or a classic Porsche. But some of those are stupid money now, up to £1 million. But something classic like that that's only appreciating in value. Like, you know, like a nice Porsche, it's a practical classic. You can get in, you can drive it, and you can repair it, you can tinker around on it yourself. I mean, some of these modern hypercars, they're fantastic, and you know, they look great on a poster, and you can drive them in a straight line, you know, in Dubai at, you know, over 200 miles an hour, but apart from that, you can't live with it. So yeah, it'd be something like that where there's been some craftsmanship that's gone into it, and it's a thing of beauty to admire and look at and polish.
Brilliant. Okay, and your favorite drink?
My favorite drink. So we drink a bit of rum in our house. Obviously, with my wife being a sailor as well. So yeah, Mount Gay, Appleton Estate, and I enjoy whiskey occasionally. I don't drink beer that much anymore. It bloats me out. I can't pack it away like I used to. No. So you know, I'd pick a nice heavy red with a steak, red wine or something like that. That's kind of my sort of go-to drinks now. So it's more not about the volume when I was younger. It's more about just enjoying and savouring something really nice and special.
Yeah, I think that's I got a lot from. I did 2 years ago. I did a year with no alcohol at all. And the biggest take home I got from that was enjoying a drink when I have one. So even if I do have a Peroni or I have a vodka and Coke or whatever it is, biggest take home I get is I actually enjoy the drink. When I was, let's say, drinking more regularly, let's say, it was just a beer. It was just, oh, I'll have this. But like what you said, I can go and have a meal and have a really nice glass of red wine, one glass, and just thoroughly enjoy it. But when I hadn't done that year of no drink, it was just, oh, it's a glass of wine, it's 7 quid. It's like there was no attachment to it, and that's the. So it's interesting you say that, because I found just enjoying it is a different thing to just drinking it.
Back in 2015, I went on a massive fitness journey, and I'd been in the office too much and on and off the tools, and I think I lost something like 23 kilos.
Wow.
So it was a huge transformation for me, and I learned so much about myself and nutrition and drinks and stuff like that. And one of the areas that you notice in your diet is the calories that you consume or that you drink through drinks. And funny enough, actually, one of the guys here in the office, not this World Cup, but the last was it, I think, Euros or whatever it was, I think watching the games for that and the amount of cans of beers and crates of beers that he had in with the lads, he had a tally. And he worked it out, and I think during the tournament, I think he consumed in beer something like another additional 17,500 calories of lager.
Wow, that's wow. Well, talking about nutrition, Five Guys or Domino's, and why?
So I have a thing with Domino's. I don't know what it is. I enjoy it. I like eating it, but then afterwards, I feel bloated. I get sweats and things like that. Probably because I eat the whole pizza, and I should have probably stopped at half a pizza. But I just can't stop with it. And so I always have this love-hate relationship with Domino's, and where I enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it afterwards. So I'd probably say Five Guys. You know, enjoy a good burger. We do. I think that's one thing that probably came out of the whole pandemic and stuff like that was. We'd actually just signed up just as the pandemic started to one of these like Gusto meal things where you cook at home, and it came at the right time because they then very quickly closed new accounts, and obviously everyone was trying to do the online ordering for food and this, that, and everything else. But we had these boxes turning up every 2 weeks, so it was great entertainment to cook at home. Expand our cooking skills and enjoy new foods and do the whole fake away stuff where you're ordering certain meals and you're making your own kebabs at home, your own burgers and steaks and stuff like that. So, but a good burger, can't beat it. Whenever you're at the pub or whatever, or Five Guys, a good burger is great.
And I don't know if you've already answered this, but I'm going to ask it because it might be more. It was to do with what your wife to do with the sailing. But what is your favorite thing to do outside of work?
I can't remember my life before kids. I don't think we've had such a busy 2 years with moving the business. We've moved myself personally. We've got two under two, and one's just turned 2. So I think it's just really spending quality time with the kids and the family at the moment. We seem to always be in this juggling match with my wife at the moment where, I come home from work and she passes me a baby and then she goes and takes some time off and, trying to find personal time at the moment for both of us is really, really difficult. She's got the kids during the daytime, and then I'm helping out in the evening and things like that. But yeah, I think when we get back to some sort of normality, it'll be the days out again, and yeah, just enjoying family time, and again, really hard as well, because the 6-month-old, you're kind of just at that stage where you're kind of still breastfeeding and bottles, and so going anywhere is not an easy task. It literally is a family car full of stuff, prams and pushchairs and bags, and so we tried doing a little family break or weekend. We went down to Plymouth, and yeah, I it's so much stuff I had to take with us just for those 3 nights away. But the reason why we went down there is we picked up a large dinghy. Right. So what we're going to do next summer and the summer after, we've both got experience sailing dinghies and larger boats and stuff like that, but we kind of want to see if we can get the kids to have that passion sailing with us. So we're going to have this little dinghy in the summertime, and we can go out for an hour or two and just get the kids into it a little bit, and then hopefully if they take it up, then we'll join a sailing club and get them into little dinghies as well, and just keep the passion going in the family, really. So
and then start working towards the 45-foot full.
Yeah, so that's the dream. I mean, if the lottery comes, that big boat is, there's some boats out there now which they're like Land Rovers of the sea. You can go and do the fjords, and you can explore places where there are icebergs and stuff like that, and then you can go right across the Atlantic over the other side and Caribbean and stuff like that with them. They literally just go anywhere boats.
Yeah, no, it's I did a sanding job and a fitting job for, I won't mention any names, but let's say a Russian, well, he's got 2 boats and he's from Russia. That's all I can say.
Okay, right.
So his captain's house, and he was...
Is this the same Russian with 2 boats that's also had a part in a football club?
It could well be.
One of those boats is actually, if I remember hearing it right, the engine's got overspec'd on it, and they had to fill the hull with concrete and ballast, because when he throttled up, it would twist the structure of the boat and cause issues on the boat. But it might be the same guy. I don't know.
I think it is, and there's a lot of secret things. But I remember when he was making a choice, I think, about his kitchen in the same house that we were there, and they dropped the propellers of the helicopter off the side of the boat, like off the crane, and he just jumped in his Land Rover and he was gone on a private jet, just gone, just like. He was in the middle of a conversation and he went, they've dropped the propellers off the side. I need to go and deal with this now. I don't know where the boat was, because it certainly wasn't in England. But yeah, someone was there for a big high jump, because obviously the propellers, I think, sunk to the bottom of the harbour, wherever it was currently. So yeah, that was a...
Yeah, it's a different world. Super yachts and working with clients like that. My wife, as part of her professional boating career, worked on super yachts, and with certain clients and celebrities and things like that, and the money that's dropped onto maintaining those vessels, it's absolutely obscene. And we've actually done sanding with companies like Princess down in Devon, no, down in Plymouth, in fact, where we've sanded parts of decks, and we've done internal parts and structures and living rooms inside of the vessels and things like that. Yeah, there's actually a marine application to the whole floor sanding side that we've sort of dipped in and out of over the years, which people don't realise. Yeah, we use machines on boats as well, and sanding decks on cruise ships and things like that as well. So
you could maybe do an exchange of services. So we will come and refurbish all the decks and everything, if we can for it for the weekend.
It's very rare that you actually get to deal with the client. It's always a captain or a mate on board that's handling the operations. But yeah, it's obscene. My brother-in-law works in the marine industry, and yeah, the money that gets spent on boats is crazy.
Yeah, he'd indicate. I think there was 60 staff on the boat when you charter it or something. So something bananas, or total that it takes to run. And then he was talking about budgets, and yeah, never mind.
Yeah, well, so,
the board, the budget was like mental.
I think one of the stories my brother-in-law told me is he has there was a client for the product that he sells out in Dubai, and I think the flower bill, so floral bouquets, just for the vessel per month, was about 10 grand.
Yeah, Yeah, that
Just
they
to put flowers on the table, in the windows, make it look pretty and smell nice. It was about 10 grand a month in flowers.
Yeah. He was. It was a while ago, but I remember he did tell us some certain budgets that he had to deal with. It was like, wow. Anyway, so Peter, how anyone that doesn't know KHR, what is the best way to reach you and the team?
You'd have to try pretty hard not to find us. We don't advertise in any trade press anymore. We haven't done for some time, but we are all over the internet. So all social media platforms. And obviously, we're always at the end of a telephone. More importantly, we've got the online website, but a lot of people just use that as a catalogue. Some, just browse on the outside, don't even log in for the trade prices, but there is trade pricing if you log in on it, and then just ring into the office and say, what's the best deal, or have you got this in stock? And so often, with the sales and technical sales, you've got one question that then leads to more questions. So really, I think that the phone is sort of our most valuable tool. And for me, so many customers have got my mobile number. It's on my email footer, 07884 001294. If you've got any sounding queries, WhatsApp has been fantastic. We used to get the phone call, oh, my machine's doing this, or it's making a funny noise, or it's got this rattling noise. A quick picture or a quick video, I have to send it over, and I can pretty much work out, guess what the problem is, and let you know if we can get around it or fix it on site quickly, or send you the parts the next day. So it's you can get a hold of us any way that you can, really. So
brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really enjoyed this one.
No, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers.